Hello everyone, my name is Umu and I'm ReacttotheK's channel creator.
I am Sean, ReacttotheK's channel arranger and host of SWCcomposer Breaks Down the K, and this is Umu's and my reaction to Irene and Seulgi's Naughty.
So I'm really looking forward to this. Not only have I heard all about the Taehyung choreography, but also this track is made by Moonshine and Yoo Young-chin, and then also the topliners
Louise and Charite.
And make sure you stay till the end of this video because we'll be interviewing the track makers for the song Moonshine right after our reaction.
3, 2, no, that's not how we do Red Velvet. 1, 2, 5.
Creepy music box. Ooh. Do, pa! All you need is lower percussion to make something extra dramatic. Suspense! Fight. Or not.
Okay. Having a low voice is a fairly Red Velvet thing, like from Red Flavor and Milkshake.
That was a nice transition from the intro to the verse. Woo! There's a little mixture! The little this track is in minor and then it hits the major 3. Wow. I love how they added the flick when the snaps came in the choreo.
Switch into swung.
Yeah! Large sweep when the bass goes boom.
I like this clearly doesn't have really fancy sets for most of it, but the camera works really nice to fit the choreography.
That was a nice crescendo with the voice. She opens up. This is so good! Woo! And there's, in the vocal parts, there's lots of thick vocal layering, even an octave above.
Just gradually building back in after the very thin beat of the beginning of the bridge.
Yeah, it's just so satisfying! Hit. One last go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. Yo, let's talk about the chorus.
Oh, this was more abrupt ending than I was. Oh wait, maybe that wasn't the ending. I'm not sure if this is just a chord. This is very dramatic and I'm a little bit confused. This is not from any of the other B-sides.
Holy hell. I realized what I like so much about the chorus is, even though they stay on one note, which usually isn't my favorite way of going about a chorus melody, is the rhythms kept it really interesting because we kept the eighth notes, da 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 da, and then we'd slow it down. Let's double check real quick. So we'd go from faster rhythms on the beat, da 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 da, and then we'd slow those rhythms down and go da da, which is still on the beat, and then we'd da 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 da, right? I think that part was syncopated. So I kind of liked that grouping of rhythms for the chorus. Okay, I'm gonna go back in, I'm gonna jump through some stuff, yeah, and then we'll zoom Sean.
Wait, it was already swung. Okay, I thought on my first listen that it went to swung in the chorus, but no. Yeah.
Some harmony coming in. Okay, why is that so satisfying? Let's dissect this. Okay, so we have whispering, Irene whispering, then we also have some background vocals, da da da, in the far back, and then the main bass goes, boo! But then we also have a rising synth, I believe, that goes like, boo, at the same time goes, boo! So it's like a soundscape shift. And then after it goes boo, it goes boo, which Moonshine actually used in Turn Back Time as a transition. Some sort of whoa, bass effect. 3, 2, 1. And then right when we have that vocal line ascending, we add in some brighter synth sounds at that moment. We have
This really feels like sort of like a Red Velvet take on a sort of Taemin sort of concept.
Oh, that transition from the more minimalistic section to when the bass, I think it's just the difference of the bass. Yeah, we have more lower frequencies at this moment, I feel like, because this bass sound in this section fills up more of the aural space.
Yeah, they've done a nice, like, having, like, the synths have a very tight attack and then get out of the way right away, which makes the rhythms more sort of snappy. Like, instead of going doom, it's just like doom. I talked about this in one of my reactions, but I feel like SM has a good sense for how to making duo choreography, which is kind of rare in K-pop, come off really well. Like Baby Don't Stop also has like really tight duo choreography. And like I like how this, much like Baby Don't Stop, like pretty much the whole video is just them. Like all at the very end they brought in some backup dancers. Like they didn't try to make it a big thing. It's just like focusing in on them doing this very tight choreography.
Yeah.
And the music's also like the sort of quick 16th swing with a lot of very short decay plucks fit this sort of very energetic, rapid, snappy motions.
I didn't notice the swing, but I guess.
Yeah. And yeah, it made me also think of Taemin's Drip Drop.
Oh.
Which also has quick 16th swing. I feel like at a similar tempo to this.
When I went back for a second listen, I started noticing more of how the choreography painted out the different changes of energy, I feel like. Like when the track had a longer hit, how they just went for a wider move. And then, of course, we had the tutting when it was like the eighth notes and had all the subdivision. Tutting is like the official term for the...
Okay. I like that the pre-chorus melody seemed like a little reference to Ice Cream Cake.
How so?
Da, 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 da. And then in this it's da, 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 da. But in Ice Cream Cake, da, 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 da. It's not an extremely difficult to come up with melody, but still having that so similar within the same group makes me think it was a subtle reference back to one of their earlier songs.
I could see that. That's so cool. So yeah, just overall, I guess it was kind of smart to have the hidden B-side because it created even more mystery behind this song and then more of an impact when it was released because I was like, what is this? And then, of course, like the production quality is high as fudge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so overall, the whole mini album is really great. I think this might be my favorite B-side. Might even like it a little bit better than Monster. But you only can tell with re-listens.
Yeah. Uncover's still my favorite from the album.
Yay!
But,
cool!
Yeah, it's a super solid mini album. Like, this is like Reva Day 1 level of solid throughout the whole mini album.
Alright, so now we're just going to go back and listen to a track a few more times, and then we'll be on to the interview with Moonshine.
3 days later.
Hello?
What's up?
Okay, so our first question is just very general, which is, what is the story behind creating Naughty and inspiration for the track sound?
I think the song actually just started out as us making a full track that we brought to a camp up in Norway in Trondheim called Song Expo, which is a super great song camp where we had a session together with Louise and Charite Viken, 2 great topliners, which we just like had a great time. We just wrote a really good song, we thought, and SM was on the hook for that song like quite early. I think it was, how long was it?
It was
2 years.
2 years ago. No, 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
No, 2.
SM was 2 years. Yeah, whatever. SM was at the actual camp. The ANRs were there. So, I mean, yeah, I think they liked it pretty fast. And yeah, it took a long time to get it to the Red Velvet girls or Seulgi, Irene.
Well, that actually just made me think of something that we weren't actually thinking of asking, but were they thinking of, did they have an idea that they were going to do this for Seulgi and Irene, or were they thinking they were going to do this for all of Red Velvet, and then they just decided it would be good for the subunit?
We actually didn't write it for anyone specific. We kind of wrote a song. We actually didn't even, we were like, could be like male, female, whatever. It was just like a nice, cool song.
Okay.
So like we didn't think about anything specific.
Okay, and they didn't initially indicate to you who they were thinking of using it for. They were just interested in it.
They had some in mind, I guess. Of course, like someone, but like they didn't really disclose it with us before, like running it with the rest of the SM team, I guess.
Something else we were wondering is, which turns out, based on the story, was not the case with this one. But when companies do give leads, do they ever give a sense of the choreography they're wanting the music to suit, or do they just tell you about the song and maybe they're thinking of choreography on their end?
I guess the biggest thing they don't usually disclose like any kind of like directions of choreography. I think that comes after the music initially.
Okay.
The only scenario I can think of where they actually say something about it is when it's supposed to be a performance song. Then they mention that it's supposed to be for live performance, and by that you have to have those big kind of cues for big movements and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's kind of implied for a lot of the acts that you need to be able to dance to it, and like you need dynamics so the choreography works. But sometimes they ask for a dance break. That's what they do sometimes. Like we need a performance-driven section where like the performers can just like perform and not sing.
Yeah.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. Going back to the camp that you created this at, when the ANRs came into the room and started listening to your stuff and started giving comments, do you remember what you were initially going for and what kind of comments they gave you to kind of like move it in a certain direction?
Because the song was so like, it wasn't written for anyone in particular. I just think the vibe, the track was already like done, so it was already there. And we actually wrote this song crazy fast, I remember. Because I don't know if it was a half-day session. I think this was one of the half-day sessions, Jonatan. I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that.
We recorded the vocals in blazing speed, I remember, to be able to like get it done in time.
Yeah, that's true. And you sat like 30 minutes before the actual listening party, where like all the songwriters of the camp listening to the finals, like recordings of the songs. You were sitting like complete focus mode, like don't talk to me, like I'm just gonna fix this. Like it was like it's so hilarious because you did those small, like for example the pitch down vocal is she's credited on the but she's the exactly, she's
That's
the one doing the naughty
vocal.
Yeah, and that's something you made, like you spent 3 minutes on that in like the complete rush, just processing the shit out of it, just adding that, and that just stayed with the demo and now ended up being in the final recording. So like it's so
that was
crazy.
Actually, to make that, I think we can say that, like that was actually to make up for the fact that we didn't have time to record a proper like intro part, something like we just didn't have time. So it was like a quick like, oh, let's just put something really quick in like the pockets to like fill it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's fun that it stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had a question about that very starting intro percussion, like before the naughty comes in. I was wondering if you guys maybe even had the original demo with you. What were the effects that you had on the drum sound, and like how many layers are there?
Like there's only one kick and one snare. I think we had some inspiration from like I guess. The general inspiration from the track was like a bit of like Taemin's Danger that we had listened to during that day when we made the track, which can kind of explain the kind of bounce in the track and stuff like that. Which also we wanted to start the track like, you know, throwing people off by like, okay, this is some kind of like super... I don't know. It's not even like 80s drums. It's just like really, really weird drums. Just like,
It's like it's pitched and
throw people off.
Yeah, I guess it's like reversed. Like the kick or the snare is like reversed in, so it's like this suction effect almost. But it's quite simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're making like kicks and snares and stuff, do you generally like sample sounds yourself and then put those in? Do you generally synthesize them, or are you generally like working from existing samples and then just processing them to make them individual for you?
That's a really, really good question. I think we do all of those like scenarios you named.
Yeah.
Like we have the Moonshine sample map where we've sampled ourselves shouting and clapping and snapping and like tambourine loops and stuff like that we've done by ourselves, that we use quite heavily in our productions.
I think like usually what we do, especially with kick drums, it's like we see it as 3 layers. You have like the low, the mid and the high. So it's usually like we need this kind of kick, and then you find like the high, you take 3 different kick samples and you take out like each part from each kick. But then it's also like once you've done that a couple of times, you start to sample down the new kicks you made, and like you get your favorites. So now it's like we have a big library of drums we really like that we usually just go to, that we already done a lot of stuff to, and it's pre-baked.
Yeah.
Save some time.
Yeah. Another question about a sound in it, this time not percussion. We were just noticing when they had the instrumental, this sort of squeaking sound in the second pre-chorus that comes in, this that only is an octave higher. What is that sound made from?
Oh damn! To be honest, I feel I need to listen to it to know.
But I know what you're talking about.
Okay, you know? If you want, I can link the timestamp and stuff. Here, let me put this for Ludvig.
Oh damn! I have no idea what that is. Do you, Jonatan?
Well, yeah.
I have no clue.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's like some metal, like just scraping metal sample. We put in a granulizer, which is kind of like a synthesis kind of reproduction thing that kind of drags it out and kind of, digitalizes it. That we actually just put those notes in, which is kind of super weird because I know it's supposed to not work because of the note values. Nah. Like it almost adds like that horror vibe to it. But since the chords are so sparse, I guess it just falls in between the pockets there, or whatever you could say. Like it's not supposed to work with the key, but it kind of does anyways. So that's kind of a fun hidden gem. Like, and as we said, like hiding all those small mini elements to it kind of adds to like the general vibe. But once you listen to like the finished song with the vocals on, it's almost impossible to hear. It just adds something behind.
Yeah.
Speaking of other hidden things, Sean noticed something the other day, and then we went on a trek to find more things, and...
Oh yeah, so I noticed for the first time in Naughty the little mention at the beginning, and then I thought, wait, that sounds familiar, and then I listened to Sassy V and realized it's in there, and then Umu found it in Sunny Side Up, and then there's something that we think might be it in Feel Good, although it's more heavily... more heavily processed.
Yeah, it's in there as well.
Well, how did that start being something you put in songs? Do you put it in all? Have we just been missing it in the ones that aren't Red Velvet?
The general idea, to begin with, is just like, because a lot of songs we do are for artists and like specifically for some artists, but some songs we just make and then our publishing just send it to a lot of people. And unfortunately, sometimes people have a tendency to steal stuff and, take credit for it as their own. So it's basically just like a producer tag. You just put it into like watermark your production. Sometimes it's like super ugly and just like in your face, so it's obvious, but we just thought we'd do it with a bit of style. So we recorded our own voices and pitched it up. So we have like 10 different ones. And we just like it. So then we just try to sneak it in all our production, so it gets all the way to the final release.
So we have missed it in other tracks.
You have missed it. Like we started doing it like after I think it was it's so boggling because like on the album where we released like Sunny Side Up, we did it on Sunny Side Up, but we didn't do no Milkshake, which is on the same album, which like was boggling. Like that was the screw up from me. Ludvig got so pissed at me, and that's completely fine. But then we also have actually the most fun place where we actually had our tag is like in Turn Back Time, where that's the first like kind of choreography move they do. It's Moonshine, where they actually...
Oh my god!
10 is doing his swaggy moves to our producer tag, which wasn't intended from our part at all, but it ended up being
now the
awesome.
cat is out of the bag, but we really enjoy, watching reaction videos and people listening to it, and you realize like you're so used to those like chopped weird vocals that people don't even like reflect on the fact that it's it's saying something that is just like our tag and it says Moonshine. People just like think it's part of the production, don't really notice it, which is really fun.
Exactly, because I remember whenever I listened to Sunny Side Up, I always heard it as like, or like maybe it was like some Korean word or something. But then after Sean said, hey, Naughty has Moonshine, I was like, wait, I remember hearing also a pitched up voice in Sunny Side Up. And it was, it was your tag.
I think it's in Supercar as well, but like super in the back. Or
You
did they
mean
remove it?
yeah. No, it's. I think it's in Supercar, and I know definitely it's in Riding as well. So you gotta now you got something to scout for as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right after this interview is going back and marathoning your whole discography.
Yeah. Sometimes they remove it, and then it's sad. But sometimes they don't. I don't really know why. Like they sometimes decide to include it or remove it, but yeah.
And I'm, kind of back to moving it to Naughty specifically.
Yeah.
The drop into the chorus is so freaking good. How does one make a successful and satisfying pre-chorus transition to chorus drop?
With a lot of patience.
A lot of patience, but I guess like we tend to gravitate towards the more like exploding choruses. Like so-called anti-choruses is kind of like we've done it, but it's not really doesn't really give us the same like satisfaction. So the main thing we usually do is just taking out stuff right before the drop, so you get that big contrast there, right? For example, in Naughty specifically, we have just the bass swoops coming in,
Right.
and then you get like all of the treble and the highs coming in like as an explosion. Even though it doesn't really explode, we don't even have a crash in like the most fundamental thing. Like on the one in the chorus we have a crash, but no, we don't. We just have like something like small open hi-hat and some vocal shouts.
Is it the Jin symbol maybe?
I think it's the Jin symbol, yeah. Well, big shout out to Jin Choi, like one of the greatest producers out there, who gave us his precious splash symbol sample.
We use it all the time. No, but yeah, as you said, the choruses don't really explode. I think the thing that makes the last chorus in Naughty feel like bigger is the fact that we have a white noise there, like a ch, because that's the only chorus we have it in. We don't have it in any of the other choruses that I think of.
And also big shout outs to the SM team also for like the mixing engineers there. They've done a terrific job on the mix.
Yeah, it's great. It's really good.
Another question. This one from...
Final question.
Yes. Irene from Twitter wonders, is there a specific section or instrumental part in Naughty that is your personal favorite?
The chorus.
The chorus. No, but like the thing that I don't know if too many people have noticed, which is like the most satisfying thing ever, is that we built the verse with the bass line, and we built the pre-chorus with mainly like the chord progression. What makes the magic in the chorus is that we just bump those two together. So you got the exact same bass line, you got the exactly same chord progression, it's the same synths, it's the same everything, it's just the drums that makes that big dynamic change, which is just so satisfying because you never really get tired of the sound. It's just like, we have this consistent like, super solid kind of bass line, we have this super solid kind of like chord progression, and it all comes together in the chorus. It's just so satisfying. That's my favorite thing about the song, at least.
Yeah, the middle eight is really good as well, but the top line is really great. The production is like nothing special, but the top line in middle eight I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Both are very special. From a fan, both are great. Wow, well thank you so much for this afternoon.
Well, thank you guys
for taking time off of your vacation. And
no problem.
I
This is fun.
hope you guys have a great vacation. Like, enjoy yourselves.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
we
talking
are.
to us. Yeah, looking
course.
forward to seeing your reaction to the song.
Yep.
Yeah, there's lots of
Yeah.
screaming. Apologies.
Yes. Awesome.
Well, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.